What's happening, Lakers Nation? Welcome back to Lakers News Fan Report, your ultimate source for everything purple and gold. I'm bringing you the latest breaking news, the deepest analysis, and all the insider information you need to stay ahead of the curve on our beloved Lakers. Today, I've got something that's been developing quietly behind the scenes, something that could reshape our roster construction and impact our championship aspirations. This is big, and you're going to want to stick around until the end, because what I'm about to break down has massive implications for the rest of our season. The Lakers are sitting pretty right now. We're 14-4, second in the Western Conference, and looking like legitimate championship contenders for the first time in a while. LeBron is still doing LeBron things, AD is healthy and dominant, and our supporting cast has stepped up in ways we couldn't have imagined at the start of the season. Everything seems to be clicking under J.J. Redick's coaching. The offense is flowing, the defense is improving, and the vibes around this team are immaculate. But in the NBA, nothing stays static for long. Roster decisions are constantly being evaluated, rotations are fluid, and sometimes players who were expected to be key contributors find themselves on the outside looking in. Let me take you back to the beginning of this season. Training camp was buzzing with optimism about one particular player. After dealing with injuries that had plagued him for what felt like forever, this forward finally entered camp healthy and ready to make an impact. J.J. Redick was singing his praises throughout the preseason, specifically highlighting his defensive abilities and versatility. The coaching staff viewed him as a crucial piece of the puzzle, someone who could guard multiple positions, crash the boards, and provide the kind of gritty, winning basketball that championship teams need. His energy was infectious, his motor was relentless, and everything pointed to him carving out a significant role in the rotation. Fast forward to where we are now, almost 20 games into the season, and the narrative has completely shifted. This player has missed 4 consecutive games, and it's not because of injury. He's healthy, he's available, but he's not playing. The minutes have dried up, the role has diminished, and suddenly we're looking at a situation where a player who is supposed to be integral to our success is now firmly outside the rotation. This isn't a sudden development. It's been building over the course of these first few weeks, but it's reached a point where we need to have a serious conversation about what this means for both the player and the organization. I'm talking about Jared Vanderbilt, and his situation with the Lakers has become one of the most intriguing storylines of our season. In his 14 appearances this year, Vanderbilt is averaging 4.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1 steal per game on 44% shooting from the field. Those numbers, while not terrible, don't exactly scream impact player. More importantly, when he's been on the floor, the production just hasn't been there in the ways the coaching staff needs it to be. His defensive versatility is still valuable, his rebounding is solid, but the overall impact has been underwhelming given the expectations coming into the season. Now, here's where this gets really interesting. Vanderbilt is making $11.5 million this season, and he's got 3 more years left on his contract. That's a significant financial commitment for a player who's currently not in the rotation. In the NBA, contracts like that become complicated assets. They're not easy to move, they require creative packaging, and they often necessitate difficult decisions from the front office. The Lakers are in win-now mode with LeBron's window closing and AD in his prime. Every roster spot matters, every dollar of cap space is precious, and having that much money tied up in someone who's not contributing creates limitations. So, what are the options here? Well, the Lakers could continue to ride with the current rotation and hope that Vanderbilt finds his way back into the mix. Maybe there's an injury to someone else that creates an opportunity. Maybe his game evolves in practice and he forces JJ's hand. But the more likely scenario, the one that's being discussed in basketball circles right now, is that the Lakers explore trade possibilities. And let me tell you, there are some fascinating potential destinations that could make sense for all parties involved. Let's start with the Orlando Magic. Orlando has been one of the most impressive defensive teams in the league, and they're always looking to add versatile wing defenders who can guard multiple positions. A potential package could involve Vanderbilt, along with young sharpshooter Dalton Knecht, and a future second-round pick, heading to Orlando in exchange for Jonathan Isaac. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isaac has his own injury history and his own concerns, but when he's on the floor, he's one of the most impactful defensive players in the league. His shot-blocking ability, averaging 1.3 blocks per game over his career, is exactly what the Lakers need in the paint. He's got length, he's got timing, and he could be the defensive anchor that takes our interior defense to the next level. For Orlando, this trade makes sense because they're getting a young shooter in Knecht who's shown flashes of being able to light it up from deep. They're also getting a draft asset and a defensive-minded forward in Vanderbilt who could contribute off their bench. The Magic are building something special, and adding young talent with upside aligns with their timeline. Isaac, while valuable, has struggled to stay healthy, and if they believe Vanderbilt can provide similar defensive versatility with better availability, it's worth exploring. Another intriguing destination is the Indiana Pacers. Indiana has been one of the most explosive offensive teams in the league, but they've struggled defensively at times. Vanderbilt's ability to guard multiple positions and his rebounding would address some of those defensive concerns. The proposed trade would send Vanderbilt, Knecht, and a second-round pick to Indiana in exchange for Obi Toppin. Now, Toppin has been a revelation for the Pacers. He's averaging 14 points and 6.7 rebounds per game, and while his three-point shooting is down this season at 17.6%, we've seen him shoot better than that in previous years. He's an elite rim runner, he's athletic as hell, and he's developed into a legitimate two-way player who can defend on the perimeter and stretch the floor offensively. For the Lakers, adding Toppin would be huge. He's exactly the kind of versatile forward who can play alongside AD or spell him when needed. He runs the floor in transition, he finishes lobs, he can step out and knock down threes when he's in rhythm, and he brings energy every single night. The fit next to LeBron and AD would be seamless, and he's young enough that he could be part of the Lakers' future beyond this season. For Indiana, they'd be getting defensive help in Vanderbilt, shooting potential in Knecht, and a draft pick to sweeten the deal. Given that the Pacers are underperforming expectations this season, they might be open to making changes to their roster construction. The third potential landing spot, and this one is really spicy, is the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento is in complete chaos right now. They're taking calls on almost everyone except Keegan Murray and their young prospects, which tells you everything you need to know about where they are as an organization. A potential package could involve Vanderbilt, Knecht, promising young wing Otto Thiero, and a second-round pick heading to Sacramento in exchange for Malik Monk. Yes, that Malik Monk. The same Malik Monk who was absolutely beloved during his time with the Lakers and provided instant offense off the bench. Monk is currently averaging 12.7 points, 1.7 rebounds, and 1.9 assists per game while shooting 44.9% from the field and 41.6% from three. Those are exactly the kind of numbers the Lakers need from their perimeter players. Monk brings scoring punch, he brings shooting, he brings playmaking, and he already knows the organization and the culture. The familiarity factor can't be understated. He thrived in LA before, and there's every reason to believe he'd thrive again. For Sacramento, this trade would be about accumulating assets and young talent. Thiero is an athletic wing with legitimate two-way potential who could develop into something special. Knecht gives them another young shooter to develop. Vanderbilt provides veteran defensive presence. And the draft pick adds to their asset collection as they potentially rebuild. It's the kind of trade that makes sense for a team that's clearly heading toward a reset. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Should the Lakers actually trade Jared Vanderbilt? This is where it gets complicated. On one hand, we're 14-4 and sitting pretty in the Western Conference. The rotation is working, the chemistry is building, and you could argue that we shouldn't mess with success. Why fix what isn't broken? Why create disruption when everything is flowing smoothly? On the other hand, we have to think long-term. Vanderbilt's contract is a significant financial commitment, and if he's not going to be part of the rotation, that's money that could be better allocated elsewhere. The Lakers have championship aspirations, and every resource needs to be optimized. If trading Vanderbilt allows us to address weaknesses, whether that's interior defense, perimeter shooting, or front court depth, then it's absolutely worth exploring. The goal is to win a championship, and sometimes that requires making difficult decisions about players who might be good guys and solid contributors, but just don't fit the current system or timeline. The challenge with trading Vanderbilt is his contract. At $11.5 million per year, with 3 years remaining, he's one of the tougher contracts to move in the league. His injury history raises red flags for potential trade partners. His limited offensive game means he's not going to be a primary target for teams looking to add scoring. His value is almost entirely on the defensive end, and while that's important, it's not enough to make him a highly sought-after trade piece on his own. That's why any trade involving Vanderbilt would likely need to include additional assets like young players or draft picks to make the salaries work and to provide enough value for the receiving team to take on his contract. Here's my honest assessment of the situation. Vanderbilt is a good player who's in a tough spot. He's healthy for the first time in a while, but the rotation has solidified around other players. J.J. Redick has found combinations that work, and Vanderbilt just isn't part of those combinations right now. That doesn't make him a bad player. It doesn't diminish what he's capable of doing. It just means the fit isn't right at this moment with this team. Sometimes that happens in the NBA. Players who thrive in one system struggle in another. Players who are perfect fits under one coach find themselves on the outside, under a new coach with different priorities. The Lakers need to be strategic here. If they can package Vanderbilt in a deal that brings back a player who addresses a more pressing need, whether that's a shot blocker like Jonathan Isaac, a versatile scorer like Obi Toppin, or a microwave offensive player like Malik Monk, then they should absolutely explore it. But they shouldn't make a trade just to make a trade. They shouldn't move Vanderbilt simply because he's not playing. The return has to make sense, the fit has to be right, and the trade has to genuinely improve the team's championship odds. What makes this situation even more fascinating is the timing. We're early enough in the season that the trade market hasn't fully formed yet. Teams are still evaluating their rosters, still figuring out what they have and what they need. By the time we get to the February trade deadline, the landscape will be much clearer. Contenders will have identified their weaknesses, rebuilding teams will have decided which veterans they want to move, and the market will be more active. The Lakers have time to be patient, to explore all their options, and to make the move that makes the most sense for their championship aspirations. One thing I want to emphasize is that this isn't about Jared Vanderbilt being a problem or a disappointment. He's been a professional, he's stayed ready, and by all accounts, he's been a great teammate through this whole situation. Sometimes basketball just doesn't work out the way everyone hoped. The Lakers thought he'd be a key rotation piece. Vanderbilt thought he'd have a significant role, and the reality has been different. That's nobody's fault. It's just the nature of the NBA where rotations are competitive and playing time has to be earned every single night. Looking ahead, I expect this situation to develop over the next few weeks and months. The Lakers will continue to monitor the trade market, they'll have conversations with other teams, and they'll evaluate whether moving Vanderbilt makes sense for their championship pursuit. If the right deal comes along, one that genuinely improves the roster without sacrificing too much in terms of young talent or future assets, I think they'll pull the trigger. But if the market isn't there, if the offers don't make sense, they'll be patient and wait for the right opportunity. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear from you, Lakers faithful. What do you think the Lakers should do with Jared Vanderbilt? Should they trade him and try to upgrade the roster? Or should they hold on to him in case they need his defensive versatility later in the season? Which of these potential trade destinations makes the most sense to you? Would you want Jonathan Isaac's shot blocking, Obi Toppin's versatility, or Malik Monk's scoring? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely love hearing different perspectives from Lakers Nation. If you want to stay locked in on every Lakers development, every trade possibility, and every piece of analysis that matters, make sure you're subscribed to Lakers News Fan Report and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We're here every single day bringing you the content you need to stay informed and engaged with your Lakers. Let's keep this championship push going strong. Lake Show, forever.